Welcome to the Evolve Exchange. Today we are joined with Lee Essec from Tango Networks. For those who may not be familiar, could you tell us a little bit about Tango Networks and your role there?
Absolutely, Connie. Thank you for having me today. It's a great honour. So Tango Networks. So let me describe what problems we solve rather than what we do, and it may make more sense. So if I look at a UC stack today, it's all around collaboration. However, there's a huge gap in collaboration, and that's the mobile phone. Literally everybody has a mobile phone, and everybody wants to use their mobile phone. The trouble with mobile communications is they're siloed from the UC stack at the moment. Yes, we've got apps we can deploy. Apps do work if I'm sat in a warm studio like this and I've got great Wi-Fi, but when I'm out and about and I've only got a mobile signal, apps don't really work. So people tend not to use them. So what we do is we bridge that gap. We take an eSIM and we allow it to carry the UC subscriber's identity. So when they receive a call using their standard dialer on the mobile phone, they use their UC identity. And that allows the UC administrator to take all of the policies that they would normally apply to a fixed line number, call recording, analytics, AI, we have to mention AI, and just apply them to a standard mobile. So we do that. We do it on a global basis. If you'd wanted to do that, you would have to go and do that integration with each individual mobile carrier in each country. So we act as the hub for that. We have the relationships with the mobile carriers on a global basis, and we allow our integration to happen into BroadSoft platforms, UC platforms. So that's what we do. Essentially, we plug the gap and put a mobile overlay on the UC platform.
And mobility has become such a hot topic since the shift to hybrid and flexible working. Why do you think it's become so critical to modern businesses?
It's just the way we operate. Everybody has a mobile phone. I think 80% of workers are not office-based now. So they are relying on their mobile phone for communications. The generation that are coming into the workplace now just know their mobile phone. It's what the tool they want to use to communicate with. We've seen the uptake happen in the Nordics, Northern Europe. 95% of their UC deployments are on the mobile phone. And gradually that's starting to perforate across to Western Europe and the US. So I think it's the natural progression. It all comes down to the user experience. It's people what they want. It's the tools they use. I've been sat in offices and people reach over their desk phone to pick up their mobile phone to make a call because their contacts are in there. So I think it's just the natural progression. We've just been waiting to plug the gap.
Do you feel there's a little bit of sort of mental scarring to users that have used application-based UC on their mobiles to take that next leap and trust the mobile in, so that our deployments are a lot more mature potentially, and people are used to having used UC apps for pre-COVID, for example. COVID heightened everybody, made them more mobile, more reliant on applications, that people are a little bit wary of, and that's why we haven't been such a quick adopter compared to the Nordics, for example.
I think you've hit the nail on the head there, Paul. COVID, we had to, as an industry, rush out a solution that fitted everybody. A lot of people working from home, so they had an app on their laptop which worked, but the next thing was, let's rush out an app on the phone. And people did get scarred. The apps are kind of clumsy. You have to learn how to use them. We've all got a couple of hundred apps on our phone, so learning to use an app is not difficult. But when you use an app and you don't particularly get a good signal, a good quality call, yeah, absolutely, people are that's hard. One of the key things about where we use our service is because it's mobile native, we don't rely on the data channel. Data, as we know, is kind of best efforts, piece data back together. Because with a native voice channel on the mobile phone, it gives you a greater quality of call. It's a business quality of call, but you're absolutely right. People have been through experiences, they don't use them. I think there's a lot of research out there that says after deployment, after about 3 months later, only 6% of people are actually using the OTT apps. So they just revert to back what they know, and it's the native mobile.
And what are some of the biggest challenges businesses face when trying to stay connected on the go?
Oh, it's the mobile phone, isn't it? It is literally siloed. It's getting all of those key customer conversations. And a lot of these are frontline workers, people who are out in the field. And arguably some of the most important conversations your business is having is on the front line, speaking to customers, suppliers, and partners. So the challenge is actually, number one, getting those siloed communications into UC, but then it's actually what you do with those communications whilst they're into the UC environment.
And I guess the historic kind of way that the UK mobile network has been set from day one, and as you say, OTT apps previously relying on a data connection, there's latency in that. Yeah. So my speech to you is going to be delayed. I could sound like I'm in Australia in the 90s on a dial-up sort of Skype call back in the day. So that progression to using native voice services condenses all that. Well, it solves those problems and goes further afield as well. So the example I often use is if you're driving down the M4 corridor, if you're using an app call, your phone is staying registered to the cell site until the very last minute before swapping to the next one, which means I am as far as humanly possible from that cell site. So there is going to be latency because of actual distance of travel. Whereas your native voice call, right, the next cell site's there, I'm going to swap now, and I'm going to swap now, and I'm going to... So you're guaranteed, if you think about it in your internal network, in the office, and your Wi-Fi channels, you would want your laptop to be hopping immediately. You wouldn't want it to be hanging onto the access point down the far end of the office. So why is that acceptable for your communications when out in the field?
Exactly. It's best efforts. Data is best efforts at that. And the mobile will stay connected while it's on the data channel because it can add a bit of latency. It can lose a few packets. It can reassemble them. Those who would look at our phone probably had them a little bit longer than some others. Remember an E. Now we have 5 bars of 5G, but it's E. And E actually means edge of the network. I'm on the very edge of the network. But if my phone's connected with a native voice call, that call will get priority over data session. Yep. But personally, man, I came in from Paddington Station yesterday and I had to make a call. 5 bars of 5G. I couldn't get an OTT app to work. It was a Teams app because so many people are trying to use data. As soon as I made a native call, the network gave it priority, so I got straight through.
Yeah. And again, just breaking that down is kind of your home workers, again, given those other real world examples of data in a fixed environment, the previous sort of, the after school rush at 4:30, when we're on the fibre to the cabinet networks, 4:30, kids come home, they've done the homework, straight on the Xbox. My Teams calls now a lot worse quality because of the demand that's going through the entire network. Just because I'm not plugged into something, that demand is still shared out there. And again, I think that's something that's lost on people because if you're web browsing or waiting for an email to come through, if there's latency, you don't really notice it because if it took a split second for a web page to load compared to what it did a moment ago, or an email is delayed by 30 seconds because of the latency, you don't know because it just appears when it appears. On a voice call, it's instant. As soon as there's latency, I don't hear you, or I hear half a word, or we stutter, or we start talking over each other because there's a delay. And then that's going to only affect your customer experience, so end users' customer experience to their end customers.
Exactly.
And then builds up that frustration, and then people then have the kind of misunderstanding that it's actually the system that they've purchased is at fault. It's not the system, it's the technology not necessarily being utilised in the right way.
Exactly. It's not the technology. So what we want to do is take out any of those variables, and the easiest way to do that is to use the native voice channel. It's a consistent business quality experience. You're absolutely right. It only takes one call with an important client of a bad quality, or you sound like a robot, or I love your analogy of Skype call to Australia. It only takes one call like that for people to start, these guys are not using the best communications. And when you're in our industry and we're selling communications, you want to have the best quality.
Why do you think mobile communication still isn't as integrated into UCaaS as desktop or traditional systems, and how are we changing that?
It's really hard. It's quite simple. We've spent 20 years developing our technology. We started off relationships by working directly with the mobile carriers, so we got to understand how to do that. And to take a mobile network, which is quite a complicated network, and integrate that into a UC platform is in itself quite a challenge. As a company, we've got 125 patents wrapped around our technology. So it's quite difficult to do, Courtney. That's in one country. You try and do that in 140 countries. It becomes a very, very big challenge. So it's the one thing that the technology gap Tango now brings to it just wasn't there. We've seen other players do this on an individual basis. Microsoft are doing Teams Phone Mobile, but they're having to go and integrate with an individual mobile carrier in each area. And that takes kind of 18 months to do with each mobile operator. Kind of takes $5 million upwards to do it. What Tango have done is they've just made all of that easy. Take our solution, integrate it into your UC platform, which we do. We've already taken care of the integrations with the mobile carriers on a global basis.
Yeah. I think we did see it, going back in my career probably 7-8 years ago, we did see one of the big mobile carriers try to implement a product like this. But they had the mobile capability and the mobile skill, but potentially not the PBX knowledge and actually the hosted platform the other side. Yeah. So they were probably too early to market with that. And again, I go back to my point about over the top applications causing customer concern about using the mobile as their primary resource. Those early best efforts again to deliver a product within that space again probably didn't fill the UK with much confidence that you could do a mobile UCaaS solution. And actually, as well as ahead of its time, the mobile piece was fantastic because they're a big mobile network. But having no UC platform in the background to then hold up the important bit that you're selling, again, has probably fed in a little bit of nerve in the UK market, because it never really reached what it could have reached had they had a big PBX provider behind it.
Absolutely. Let's be clear. Mobile companies are really good at selling mobile. Yeah. They don't sell UC. And that's not them. They just don't. They concentrate on their core market. UC are really good at selling UC. Mobile's becoming part of UC. So I think it was a great product. I know what you're talking about. That's a mobile carrier with a red logo. It was slightly ahead of its time, and I think their go-to-market was wrong. It was, mobile trying to sell UC, and really businesses don't go to a mobile carrier for their UC solution. They go to their UC provider. So hence, we always work with UC providers like you guys. You know what you're talking about. You're going out there, you're talking to your customers, you're identifying problems, and some of those problems are solved by mobile. So I think, great product, ahead of its time, regional, and the go-to-market was probably not as refined as it should have been.
And how does Tango Networks technology make mobility a more natural extension of unified communication?
I think in short, it's the user experience, Courtney. We've talked about apps and the user experience and people, probably losing faith in them, but we all know how to make a call. We go into our contacts, we press the little symbol. So it's just making it easier. The easier you make something to use, the more widely adoptable and scalable it is. So just by spending the time making that easier has make it more adoptable. Now, there's also some other players in this that have made it a lot easier. The OS developers for both Apple and Android have spent a lot of time looking at how you can do this, because you remember that we can deploy as the primary SIM on a mobile device, or more commonly now, we're actually a BYOD, so we're being added as a second line to people's personal mobile phones.
Certainly how we're using it internally, and I think that live use case is, for us, it's brilliant. It's not like, again, it's taking mobile technology to that next stage again. So I'm not having to worry about having to deploy MDM solutions so an end user has a sandboxed environment. Me as an end user, I'm not worried about what permissions am I actually granting my work app to see on my personal phone. We do versions with or without data. For me personally, I see it as like you say, where you have kind of seen subscriber numbers. It's that secondary SIM on the existing user's device. I don't need to supply them data because I don't need data to work. I don't need to install an application, so I don't need to get them to sign off on any sort of GDPR. I can guarantee I can't see anything on your apps because you're not installing permissions. It's almost like going back to having a candy bar phone in the early 90s with a fixed dial SIM that I can just go out and make phone calls on. Exactly. And that is what you want from an end user's point of view. It's a work phone. I don't need it to do everything, singing and dancing. From you I just want it to make calls. I just want to talk to my end customers, because for a work purpose, that's all I need it for. Yeah, the phone I've picked as my handset of choice is my handset of choice, and it's got camera and I can do whatever. that's fine. That's all me personally. But from a work point of view, I don't want a folder with 7 apps on to be able to communicate internally or externally.
And again, you're right. You want to have that clear user experience. I want to make and receive calls in the normal way that I do. I don't want to have to worry about privacy. My work seeing my personal data on my phone. People don't want that. Work and personal should be separate.
Yep.
So just making it easy. It's kind of a perfect storm. The OS developers have developed that. They've thought about that. We brought the technology together. So making it easy to use, adoptable, that can be deployed very rapidly via an IT department. eSIM's been great for this. We've been massive proponents of eSIM. We don't ship bits of plastic around the world, which is great for the environment. But for those people who have actually installed an eSIM, you scan a QR code, 2 minutes later it's there and installed. So it always comes back to the user experience from me. How can we make it easy, secure and scalable and easy to manage?
Yeah, and particularly as you touched on with the OS developers helping you on that journey as well. Exactly, primarily Apple and Google, let's be honest. They write everything.
Yeah.
But like the contact directory now, it's so easy. I go add a new contact. What SIM do I want it on? Work or personal? And then I never need to worry that when I call that person, have I done it from the right app? Am I showing the right number? I just know I'm going to call you, and you're going to see my work DDI. It could be my 0102 number, or we can assign a mobile number to it. And like you say, it can be either way. But I know that you're only going to get my work credentials, and then that will follow the work routing. So I know, for example, at 5:30, if you call the main number, you're going to be serviced by my out-of-hours team or my voicemail, and I'm not going to have to be disturbed in my personal time that I'm going to get those mainline calls. But equally, I've still got a DDI, I've still got a mobile number. If I want to give that golden service to a customer, that option's still there and readily available.
But it's a very good point you've made there, that we're increasingly look at people's welfare and mental health, and to be able to separate from work and personal life is important. There's certain countries in the EU, France for example, where it's actually illegal for you to answer a work email or answer a work call. So having those intelligent routing policies, routing for our American partners, in the UC platform that says it's 5:30 on a Friday, polls now, it is not working, and to route that call elsewhere is really, really valuable. And again, it goes back to the user experience. I know that I'm not going to get bombarded with calls all weekend. But 5:30, the routing could be set that calls go to the over the out of hours or the over the weekend team.
Yeah. There's also that reassuring thing. I'm on annual leave. I know I've put myself in do not disturb on my laptop. I know it's going to follow the route. I haven't got. If I got another app to sign out of, I've got something else. Like you say, usability is got to be key to drive the adoption of this.
Security is always top of mind for businesses. So how does Tango Networks help ensure mobile communications are both secure and compliant?
I think it's a follow-on from what we've just really said. It's being confident that my personal information is separate from the work information, that nobody's going to see that. So we just bring that, and again, it's part of the OS developers, but it is paramount. Having that privacy is absolutely paramount. If you're asking your employees to put any device or application on their personal phone, you've got to consider the security from their point of view and your point of view, and privacy is a huge, huge part of that.
And also, I guess, knowing that call is still being routed through your or our core platform, they still know it's going to go through our ISO accredited Tier 4 data centers. It's still going through, SOC 2 compliant company. It's not just, as you say, going out and integrating into something somewhere. It's still part of that bigger picture that you've already bought all your other comms into. And particularly those companies that need to be compliant, making sure that my calls are recorded, and I know they're being recorded because ease of use, going through that one simple SIM that is integrated into the whole core platform that I've invested in. So I know that from a compliancy point of view, that could be financial industries, IT, anything that's really giving advice, buying or selling, that my comms are secure and compliant. And those call recording platforms that come into play, we know they're not just something that's bolted on somewhere again. We know it's the core call recording licenses and provider that I'm using for my guys in the office that may be using bits of plastic on the desk or a WebEx or a Teams soft phone.
At the end of the day, it doesn't matter how you make or receive a call. You know that call's being recorded for compliance. And, I spend a lot of time talking to call recording companies, and the services they're starting to offer now are going far beyond just compliance. Voice AI is really exciting, and making sure you've got all of that rich data that's happening on a mobile call, bringing back into the core platform is absolutely key in the modern era.
From an IT or compliance perspective, what advantages does a unified mobile solutions bring compared to a consumer mobile use?
Consumer is consumer. Until we launched our product, I could have gone and spoke to the CEO of the Bank of America and guaranteed that he was using exactly the same service as my kids were to go on TikTok. It's a consumer service. So we've essentially made it business grade. And to make anything business grade, you've got to put IT in control. Putting IT in control of something is the key thing here. Control and compliance go together. So just making IT control mobile is a huge thing. They can control mobile now in exactly the same way, as Paul said, as they can any fixed line. It's the same routing, it's the same policies. So just that control being in one central place by the core UC platform is again key to this.
Yeah, and again, that's going to drive in those internal costs that may not necessarily be pound notes, but it's still a tangible cost to the business of having multiple different platforms to have to operate out of and administer and make sure that. So if I've got an MDM policy, I have to make sure that my MDM platform is up and I've got everything is correct and everybody is neatly nestled away. If I'm using Active Directory to enroll my users, etc., by utilizing one single platform that can bring all of those in centrally, like you say, one kind of central management system for every little bit of communications is going to even drive down that sort of cost of operation as well. And it doesn't necessarily need to be, as I said, pound notes. It's time, it's effort, it's potentially personnel, but they could be better utilized around the business to do something else as well.
They can, and that reflects, because it's IT are in control, but it's also, as you say, cutting things down. It's not a cost thing, it's an effort thing. But, traditionally, IT have kind of not dealt with mobile. It's just been a procurement thing. But, to put IT in control of that, number one, just centralizes things. But it also simplifies things as well from a billing point of view. You can get a single bill from your trusted supplier for your fixed line, now includes your mobile. So, again, I think it works on both sides of the fence there.
And we often talk about helping SMBs look and sound more professional. How does mobility help smaller businesses compete to an enterprise level?
When it's combined with UC, quite a lot. SMBs, they want to have that brand. Brand's everything in this modern era, isn't it? And if I'm making a call out, I want my recognised brand to be presented. If I'm making a call from my personal mobile phone, it's a random 07 number, it's likely that people won't pick it up. I, for one, I see an unrecognised mobile number on my personal line, I won't pick it up. On my business line, it's different. So I think by adding that brand identity that's going out through the UC platform, which could be their main switchboard number, it hasn't got to be an individual DID, it can be the main brand switchboard number, helps any SMB to kind of give that brand. We're heavily going down a path of branded ID, branded caller ID, BCID in the UK now. So you're starting to see that rather than just a recognizable number, there's work going on in the background with the handset manufacturers again to actually say, this is not just, Evolve IP. One of your customers, it will actually say their name, it will have a green tick by it, it'll have their logo. So I think it puts SMBs on a level playing field with the big guys who are spending a lot of money on their brand.
Yeah, I guess also on the inbound leg of that as well, that if I've called out from my mobile and it's received back, it's not just ringing through to someone's mobile and then they get then the generic, you've reached the insert networks voicemail service. They're calling in, they're getting that professional auto attendant. If there is somebody in the office, it can be routed correctly outbound. It's not like, they're not available, they're out and away from their desk. Can I take a message? Does that message get emailed or written on a post-it note that's then lost into the ether of the world? It could be a one-man band that has, as you say, a 0102 number that advertised. It comes into a branded IVR that's doing subtle advertising for them. Are you calling about service X or Y or Z? And then you select and it's still routing through to one single endpoint, but it's almost like that subtle bit of marketing. It's making them feel or appear bigger than they potentially are. And it might be that you're only ever speaking to the same person, but perception, and particularly in a world where customer experience drives more value sometimes than just price, people wanting to feel that they're talking to somebody that isn't always. There will be some sectors, tradesmen, sometimes you do want to just have that kind of local appearance, but there will be a lot of trades that
I think it's a great example. A tradesman, they want to have a local landline number, because having a landline number is kind of trusted. Having a random mobile number, well, I don't really know where this person is. And you can argue, well, you can put a regional number on it. But, those trade guys having one phone, one service that's got a fixed line number and a mobile number, so the customer can choose. I think they're always going to phone the fixed line number, because it still has that perception of an organised, recognised company in the background. I know if I had a choice, I'm doing a lot of work at my house, so a builder, one of them's got a local fixed line number and a mobile number. I'll start with the fixed line number. So it's just levelling the playing ground.
Yeah, it's a bit of perception, isn't it? I guess that's almost the same with like email domains. If you saw joeplumber@gmail.com or joe@plumber.co.uk, you'd probably pick the latter. And it's similar with telephony and numbering. There's a subconscious bias towards the familiarity of, they've got a landline number, they must have bricks and mortar, they must be a bit bigger.
Yep. Established.
Yes.
They're well established. I think it just says, and it's psychological, it's psyche. They're well established, they've got a fixed line number.
And what roles do you think mobile first communications play in attracting and retaining talent in today's hybrid workforce?
Oh, it's vital. I think the younger generation, of which I'm obviously not, expect to have their mobile phone as forefront. Gen Z are coming into the workplace now saying, I want to use my mobile phone for this. It's the tools they're used to, there's tools they want. So it's absolutely vital, servicing that requirement, which is an obvious and natural requirement from people who have been brought up with mobile phones. That's their go-to. So I think it's absolutely vital.
Yeah, and I think it's also, given that their knowledge of the ease of I know I can do this on one device, so why aren't you providing it me on one device? I don't want to carry two mobile phones around because it's business and personal. I know I can achieve it on one. It's well out there that I can achieve it on one. Why are you, a business who claim to invest in technology, making me walk around with two devices? I know personally I can achieve this. I can Google it very quickly and I can show you how it can be achieved. So it's the young generation are a lot more clued up about what is technically possible now, because they've utilised it for a number of years, right? And from reception through to the degree, they're using computing, they're using IT, or as ICT. Go back to when I was at school, information communication technology. We've gone full circle. Communication is now part of that pure IT stack.
It's been driven by the younger generation, and these are the guys that, as Paul says, know how to use the tech, and probably showing IT a few things in certain cases.
And how do Evolve IP and Tango Networks work together to help organisations unlock this anywhere work mindset?
I'm going to evolve on the chat we were having outside. You guys actually go out and talk to your customers and you talk about solving problems. And I think us coming with our technology, you coming with your technology and approach is absolutely fantastic partnership. We can bring the tech together, that's great, and we can bolt it together. But I think it's that approach of going out there, getting to understand your customer, what their pain points are, and solving them is absolutely key. And that's why I enjoy this partnership so much, because it's sitting down and going, okay, we've solved this problem for this customer. And we do it on a weekly basis.
Yeah, there's nothing more satisfying than knowing you've solved something for a customer that has spent months or years looking at a way of resolving something. It's not about just getting a sale. Sometimes it's about realizing you've changed their way of working for the better. And it's from a sales point and a tech point, it's that kind of self-achievement that you've managed to do that. And like you say, that problem-solving, all-rounded solution first approach, when you're having those conversations, is like, right, okay, I can sell you, as you say, all this technology in the world, but there's no point unless I know how you're going to use it, what you want to use it for, and actually what I'm going to solve for you. Because the long-term benefits of solving something for somebody is a lot better than just tying them into a 3-year contract. Because if it's a 3-year contract for just tech, they know when that contract ends. If it's a problem that you've solved, they kind of forget about contract end dates because it's like, oh, this thing that used to be a pain has just disappeared, and cool, this is great. Whereas if it's just the same again for another 3 years, they'll know almost to the week when they can start looking elsewhere.
Yeah, and all they're going to do is beat you down on price. It's contract renewal that's trying to beat you down on price. But if you're solving genuine problems that they either knew they had, or sometimes they don't know they've had until you actually say to them, well, this is an issue, are you aware of it? Oh, no, I wasn't actually. And when this is how we can solve that, is far, far more powerful than just knocking a few points off the contract value.
And where do you see the future of mobile communication heading in the next few years?
Well, AI.
Big buzzword.
We've avoided it. I think it's going to play a huge part. There's a massive amount of hype at the moment. I mean, I tend to focus on where it's relevant to our partners and our customers. And we touched on call recording earlier, but the ability for mobiles to now be part of the core platform and for call recording to be gathered from that kind of sometimes up to 80% of the workforce and bringing that rich data in. Mobile is absolutely key to integrating UC to bring that. AI is developing at such a rapid pace, and we talk about agentic AI, but I'm talking about reactive and proactive voice analytics, where we're centrally analyzing all of the calls that are going out in the field and pulling out themes, threads, or emergencies. You've got a field engineer out there who's dealing with an emergency on a gas leak. He phones the office and says something like major gas leak. That should be flagged immediately and somebody didn't know. So again, it's the partnerships, but absolutely, I think mobile is going to play the big part in completing the AI jigsaw from a voice point of view.
It's definitely, it's dragging that, all of those feature-rich functionalities, dragging that to the forefront of the actual user market, isn't it? Particularly, field sales, just field workers, doesn't have to be field sales, but field workers are often the forgotten about members of staff when it comes to the telephony. So I'll give you a mobile phone, you can always call into the office, not a problem, but they're not an extension of the office.
No.
And that's where, like you say, AI is going to be delivering all these fantastic deliverables, but what about the guy that's furthest away from the office?
Yeah. He's doing, as we heard, the most important things out there. Those really data-rich conversations that are happening, it's got to be brought back for the business to be aware of them, to react on them, and to analyze them. So yeah, bringing it back, I think we're going to see a lot of development, and I think mobile's going to be right at the center of that.
And if you had one piece of advice for businesses looking to make their communication more flexible and mobile friendly, what would it be?
Make mobile the core of your UC platform. Start with mobile. I'm bound to say that, but actually start with mobile because it is the tool that most people want to do. You get mobile and UC, which you guys have actually sorted, you've brought it together. Anybody who's looking at policy for their communications, I'd say start with the mobile offering that your supplier is actually integrated and can deliver to you.
Yeah, I think the way I kind of look at it is if you're on Google Earth, and you look at your office from the voice app, zoom out from that and see where your reach is.
Yeah.
And if you have people that are far away from that office, how do you bring them back into that central location? As you say, mobile first approach will then make sure that you are covering every job role, every aspect of the communications that are required. So take a look at yourself, zoom out a little bit and see how far you touch, and that's what you need to make sure is covered.
And you will reap the rewards from it. Those remote frontline workers, the engineers, actually giving them the correct tools to communicate and, as you say, to be part of the organization. Actually, it's great for them as well. They feel part of the organization rather than just the guy who's out in the field. They feel valued. When you feel valued by your organization, we all put a little bit more effort in, don't we?
And finally, where can people learn more about Tango Networks and the work that you're doing in this space?
Obviously, speak to you guys. You can Google us or you can reach out to me on LinkedIn. I'm happy to answer any questions and speak to any customers. But speak to you guys first, I'd say.
Well, that's all for today on the Evolve Exchange. I'm Courtney Cottonell and this is Paul Fletcher. And thank you for joining us. Lee Essec from Tango Networks. We'll be back with our next guest very soon.